Good morning, family. I trust you all had a wonderful weekend and everybody's doing okay. This morning I wanted to talk about the challenge of jurisdiction. There's a lot of you folks out there that are going into these tribunals next month and are unfamiliar with what's really going on and how to respond. So first off, I'm going to start off by reading a little bit from Black's Law, and I use this without prejudice. I just want you to realize what it is that they're doing, and the best way to respond. You don't have to know a lot of legalese, but you really should get this one figured out. It's Latin. They're Latin words, and you should get it figured out because it's very important. And as I get into this video, you'll see how I used it and how it is important. And the phrase is sui, S-U-I, jurist, or juris. Okay, J-U-R-I-S. Sui juris. And the other part is in propria persona. They're both legal words, legal Latin legalese. Pardon me. I may have just created a new word. But sui juris is Latin, and it means of his own right, possessing full social and civil rights, not under any legal disability or the power of another or a guardianship. Okay? And then the second words are in propria persona, in one's own proper person. So think about that for a minute. Sui juris, in propria persona. When you go in there and you go in sui juris in propria persona, you're going in there as the only living, breathing soul in there. Everyone else is wearing hats. I've talked about this before in previous videos. They're wearing hats. Every one of them's wearing a hat. They're wearing a fictitious entity. The judge, the prosecutor, the bailiff, the clerk, the stenograph lady, the one they're all wearing hats or fictitious entities. It's why you can't sue them in their personal capacity. And you'll find out as we go into this, in the conditional acceptance, you're not suing them, but you're going after them in their person, their in propria persona, in their proper person. So what you're saying is you're in there of your own right. You're possessing full social and civil rights, and you're not under any legal disability or the power of another or guardianship. I've said it before in the videos. Lawyers are there for minors, which would be a guardianship. You'd be in a guardianship, or a legal disability, a retard to the legal process. Okay, that's what you are when you go in there with these clowns, these lawyers, these attorneys. They're agents, they're actors. When you look up the definition of what they really are. And you're going in there in proper person. Now, I've said it before in other videos, they don't have jurisdiction. Now I'm going to get into that, why they don't. And this is important to know, folks, because you'll see as I get into this what happens when you go in there and you do this kind of thing. In the footnote of in propria persona, it says, it is a rule in pleading that pleads to the jurisdiction of the court. must be pled in propria persona, because if pled by an attorney, they admit the jurisdiction, as an attorney is an officer of the court. He is presumed to plead after having obtaining leave, which admits the jurisdiction. Okay, think about that. The very last part of that sentence is which admits the jurisdiction. So he's an officer, or she is an officer of the court, and they take their leave to plead for you. And by doing so, they're granting the jurisdiction. That's why I say never, ever have a lawyer do anything for you. Learn to do it yourself, folks. Go in there of his own right. When you do that, it throws them all off. Why? Because they don't have jurisdiction. It says it right here. They need the attorneys to step out of their office briefly so that they can plead for you. Well, Your Honor, my client is not guilty or guilty or pleads no contest. That's what they're doing. As soon as they do that, they grant the jurisdiction. Now, if it takes a lawyer to do that, to grant the jurisdiction, then they never had it. They do not have jurisdiction over you. None of these courts do, these so-called courts, tribunals. They don't have jurisdiction over you. Get that in your head. They may say that. I've talked to some folks out there. Well, I went in and I challenged the jurisdiction, and the judge said, well, you're here. That means I have personal jurisdiction. They're going to play this, folks. They're going to play you when you go in there and you do this. But you have to stand your ground. No, I'm not in here of my own free will. Now I'm going to get into that. There's 3 ways that you go into their arena or their court. There's a general appearance, and there is a voluntary appearance, and then there's what's called a special appearance. Going in there generally or voluntarily grants jurisdiction. Hey, I'm here, guys. I'm here to take care of this deal. Well, you just granted them jurisdiction when you enter that way. That's why when you go in there in propria persona, you are making a special appearance. You don't even have to say you're making a special appearance. When you go in there and you tell them, look, I'm here, sui juris in propria persona, they already know that you're challenging the jurisdiction. And when they're going to attempt to put a lawyer on you, you ever wonder why they give you a lawyer for free? Hey, if you can't afford a lawyer, we'll appoint you one. Of course they will. They're going to appoint you a lawyer that's going to grant them the jurisdiction. Now, the thing about that is when you go in a special appearance, make them, if you can, make them force you in there. If you're going in there in handcuffs, you're there under duress. You are not there because you want to be there. It's very apparent that I don't want to be here if I'm shackled. If my ankles are shackled, I got a belly chain on with cuffs, shackled to my hands shackled to, I am not here and making a general appearance or a voluntary appearance. That is a special appearance. All special appearances are challenges of jurisdiction, every single one of them. And once you challenge the jurisdiction, the court cannot move one step further until they answer the challenge. So don't let them move. Don't let them move forward. Once you've challenged the jurisdiction and they try to do something other than answer the challenge, stop them. Hey, hold on a minute there, dude in the black robe. I like to use their first name. Because they have no honor. Judges have no honor. If they did, Jesus would have spoke highly of them. So when you go in there and you're in a special appearance, don't let them move. Remind them that they can't move. Whoa, hold on a minute. What the hell do you think you're doing? You have to answer this challenge. You cannot move. Answer the challenge. If you have to, get to cussing them. Not only is it fun, but it'll wake up the whole courtroom. You'll hear a pin drop when you're done talking, and they'll try and remove you. Get him out of here, bailiff. Tell the bailiff, you touch me, I'm going to charge you with assault and battery. And so a special appearance, that's what I'm going to talk about, folks. The special appearance and how do you challenge the jurisdiction, okay? What happened in our case in 2017, March the 1st of 2017, 7 of us were forced in front of Cheryl Blackburn, a so-called judge in the Circuit Court of Davidson County, which is where Nashville's at. They brought us in there one by one. We refused to go. So they made us, oh, you're going. But the night before I went, or might have been a couple nights before I went, I started handwriting down on a piece of yellow paper. They gave us pads they wouldn't give you spiral pads because they were afraid you'd make tattoo guns out of it and stuff. So you would get a steno pad to write on. And what I did is I wrote down 11 times, because there was 11 of us, what to say, so that when we all went in there, we were all saying the same thing. This thing that we said, I also taught to other inmates over the first 6 months or 7 months of being here. I taught these other inmates how to say it. They were getting their misdemeanor charges dropped. One of them had a felony charge dropped by saying what it was we said. And then you ask, well, why didn't it get you out of trouble? Because the state had different plans for us. If you're in there on a misdemeanor and you say this stuff, they're probably going to drop the charges or rush you out of the room. And then they're going to come down later on with some lawyer and say, oh, they've dropped the charges on you. You'll be free to go. Because they don't want the rest of the people in the audience to hear what it is you're saying. So here's what we said. Here's what I wrote down. And all of us said this. Most of them read it off. All of the 11, most of us did anyway, read it straight off the paper. Pulled the paper out from their one little shirt pocket in their orange jumpsuit and read it. I didn't. I had it memorized when I went in there. I knew exactly what I was going to say. They took me in there first. I don't know. I guess they thought because I was one of the younger ones that I would, break first or whatever. I don't know. But this is what I said, folks. Pay close attention to what I'm about to say, because I'm going to break this down for you too. When I first went in there, she said, stand behind the podium. I said, no, I'm going to stand right here alongside of it, because I don't take directions from somebody who's a servant. No, I'm going to stand right here next to the podium. Well, you got to stand in front of it so we can hear what you're saying. Believe me, you're going to hear every word I've got to say. So she went on to speak, and I stopped her in the middle of the first sentence. I said, hey, hold on a minute. I said, there's something I need to say before you go any further. She said, well, okay, go ahead. Say what you got to say. So this is what I said, folks. Without prejudice, I, Christopher Allen Hauser, beneficiary and sovereign, am here under fraud, menace, and duress, fiduciary Cheryl. That was the first sentence. The next sentence was, this is a Social Security Sestake Trust action, which you are now a real party in interest to. And the third sentence was, this is a military admiralty jurisdiction in maritime law. See Title IV of the United States Code, Lawyer's Edition, Section 1, Interpretive Notes and Decisions, where it says, Changing of the national flag is within the discretion of the president, acting as the commander-in-chief of the Army and the Navy. Okay? What I did is I challenged the court straight off the rip. The first thing you do is reserve your rights without prejudice. And then what you say is your human name with the hyphens and the colons and then you say your titles. My title is beneficiary and sovereign. I'm here under fraud, menace, and duress, right? So I'm not here on my own free will. I'm here because you forced me in here. That was grounding my special appearance, is what I was doing. And then I said fiduciary Cheryl, which indicated right away that she was a fiduciary in a trust action. Then what I went on to say was, this is a Social Security Sestakay trust action, which you are now a real party in interest to. What I was saying was, this is a trust action. This is what's going on here. And you're now a real party in interest. And then I was making my statement that it's a military admiralty jurisdiction in maritime law, the flag, the Gulf Fringe flag. Now, a lot of people out there going, yeah, well, I've seen videos and they've tried this over the flag and it doesn't work. Well, in a lot of cases it does. And 5 years ago, it was a good argument. Now, one thing that you'll notice you didn't hear me say when I said all this stuff was the judge go, whoa, hold on a minute. You're not a beneficiary and you're not a sovereign. And wait a minute, you're not here under fraud, menace, duress, and extortion. And hold on 1 minute. I'm not a fiduciary. What are you talking about? Whoa, wait a minute. This isn't a Social Security Sestakay trust action. And I sure ain't no real party in interest. You better back up, dude. I don't think you know what you're talking about. This isn't a military admiralty jurisdiction. This flag, Gulf Fringe flag behind me, doesn't mean anything about any jurisdiction. You never heard that. This is actually on the recording, folks, and all 7 of us said the same thing. So at that point, she acquiesced. If you're unfamiliar with the word, acquiescence is admission by silence. You're admitting to what I'm saying by being silent about it. If I say you're a jerk off and you don't say, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not a jerk off. Well, then guess what? You're a jerk off. Or whatever flowerful word you'd rather replace with that. Then you acquiesce to it. She couldn't say I wasn't a sovereign or I wasn't a beneficiary or none of this stuff was true, because it was. The minute she said, wait a minute, this isn't a Social Security Sestakay trust action, she would be committing perjury on the record, because she knows it's a Social Security Sestakay trust action. She knows she's in a fiduciary obligation. She knew that I was there under fraud, menace, duress, and extortion. Now, folks, I'm telling you this because that was the alleged arraignment. March the 1st of 2017. The trial happened at the end of April of 18. And the very first day of the trial, the judge asked, this is all in the transcripts, y'all. This is in the transcripts. I've got them right here in a notebook. She says, how does your clients plead? How does your clients plead? And they all said, not guilty, Your Honor. Well, first of all, we're not your client because we've given you no power of attorney to do anything. Usurpers, identity thefts, identity thieves. So what is she doing when she says, how do your clients plead? What she's doing is she's having an arraignment the first day of the trial. If you have to ask the lawyers, how does your client plead? Well, then apparently they didn't plead back in a year prior, 14 months earlier, on March the 1st of 2017. They didn't have an arraignment. Has anybody out there ever heard of there being two arraignments? No, you're not going to find it. That's where they're screwing up. Well, this judge went on to say, she took off after I said all this stuff at the bogus arraignment and said, these are some serious charges. How do you plead? I said, I don't. Why? Why didn't I plead? Well, for one, I'm there in propria persona. And for two, you haven't told me the nature and the cause. These are some serious charges. Isn't nature and cause, folks. She went on to say, well, I'm going to plead for you. And I've said this before in other videos. Well, you can't. You don't have my power of attorney, and that's practicing law from the bench. And, well, I'm going to appoint this guy your attorney. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, you're not. And yes, I am. No, you're not, Cheryl. What are you trying to say? You want to represent yourself? No, I'm not here to represent. It's because it's represent, not represent, or the way you would believe. Look up represent or represent in the dictionary, and it'll tell you to present again. How can I present again? I can't. But if you're acting as me, then you can, lawyer. She said, I said, no, I'm not here to represent myself. I said, I'm here sui juris in propria persona. Get him out of my courtroom now. And that was the extent of the arraignment, folks. So, here's what it is. When you go in there and you're challenging the jurisdiction, okay, they don't have it. Be confident in knowing that they do not have the jurisdiction. They're trying to get it. That's what the arraignment's all about. If you plead any kind of plea whatsoever, you just said, I believe that you have the jurisdiction, so therefore I'm going to plea. They don't have the jurisdiction, but if you plead, they will have it. If you do what they say to do, they will have it. Well, look, he just stood behind the podium, which means I have the authority over him to tell him to do that and watch him do it. Okay? But here's where it's really at, folks. You can plead the flag all you want. And it's true. It's a military flag. The first 3 days of the 5-day trial that they had, they removed both the Tennessee flag and the United States flag out of the courtroom. After 3 days, the fourth day, one of the district attorney said, Your Honor, can we bring the flags back in? It's in the transcripts. Can we bring the flags back in? Well, I don't see why not. They're not coming out anyway. So they brought the flags back in. And you know what? The whole time, you never heard the jury go, or if there was a jury, hey, where's the flags been the last 3 days? Now all of a sudden they're here. You can't even notice that the flags were missing for 3 days and now they're back. And you expect to pass judgment on me while half of them were sleeping through the process. The lawyers even said that. Man, we had jury members sleeping through this thing. Yeah, this is fun, folks, where this is going. But here's where the challenge is really at. You go in there and you challenge based on the flag. Go in there and challenge the jurisdiction based on the flag. But also challenge the jurisdiction based on the fact that it's a commercial court. All crimes are commercial crimes. All of them are. In the 1960s, the late 1960s, when the Universal Commercial Code was adopted universally, all banking systems and court systems fall under the UCC. Read it. Go and read the UCC, man. A CFR, that's a CFR. I can't remember the numbers right offhand, but that's a CFR that says that all courts and banking systems now fall under the UCC. Why? Because the courts are creating bonds, folks. They're creating commercial bonds. If you go in there and say, hey, I'm here to challenge the jurisdiction, okay? And the reason I'm doing that is because this is a commercial court. This is is it not? You can go in there and say, hold up, Your Honor. Start this out like this. Hold up. I need some questions answered for me before we start this. Well, yeah, sure, son. Go right ahead. answer away. I'll try and answer them for you if I can. Okay, my first question is there a bond? Well, of course there's a bond. They're going to tell you, yeah, son, weren't you paying attention? I just put your bond at $20,000. Yeah, there's a bond. Well, look up the definition of bond, folks. They're commercial paper. Think about that. If they're creating bonds, then they're creating a commercial action. Okay. Now you can also say, is my social security number attached to these charges in any way whatsoever? They're going to have to say yes, or they're not going to say anything at all. Because at that point, they probably done figured out where you're going with this. So, is the social security account attached to these charges? Yes, they are. And you don't have to give them to them. They will take it directly from your driver's license. Some people don't have the social security number on their driver's license, and that's smart. But when you applied for that driver's license, you put the social security number on it. They're going to get into their computers, and they're going to get your number, and they're going to attach it to the charges. How else are they going to create the bonds? So think about that, folks. I'm here. Once you got them going, yeah, we created a bond, son. Didn't you hear me say it was $100,000? Yeah, you just admitted that you're creating bonds. Commercial court. You just admitted that you attached my social security number to it. This is a social security Sesta trust action, which you're a real party in interest to. And I just told you at the beginning of this that I am the beneficiary. So what we got here is a trust action involving a fiduciary and a beneficiary. You're charging the trust. You're not charging the beneficiary. You're charging the trust. And if you're charging the trust, I'm not even supposed to know there's charges. If you're creating bonds against my trust, you're not even supposed to be telling me you're creating bonds. But now that you told me you created bonds, you're malfeasing in office. Yeah, you just created a trust fraud. That's what you're trying to do here. Are you trying to tell me that you want to commit trust fraud? Is that what's going on here today, Your Honor? You just admitted that you're creating bonds, and you're doing it without my permission, unless I sign for them, unless I give you jurisdiction, unless I act for the trust as a pseudo trustee instead of standing in my beneficiary position. That's what you're doing, folks. You're going in there and you're committing trust fraud yourself by acting as a pseudo trustee. I've been trying to put this out there, and people can't seem to get their heads wrapped around the fact that you're not going to do nothing. You're not going to do nothing with the 1099-C. You're not going to do nothing with the 1099-A. Hey, can I use the 1099-A to cushion my bank account? No, you can't. For one, it's not set up to be your own personal bank. You can go in and get money out whenever you want to. The trust is set up to take care of your needs, not put money in your bank account so you can go on vacation every week. It's not meant to do that, folks. It wasn't set up to be your own personal piggy bank that you can bust open whenever you want. You want to use the trust to buy tanning beds for your tanning bed company or business or whatever. Buy a tanning bed for yourself, beneficiary, because the beneficiary needs to stay nice and tan. And then share it with the other folks. Use the trust for your benefit. It's not a bank. I can't put money into it and then just do whatever I want to with the money. It's not set up to do that. Trust funds aren't set up to do that. If that was the case, okay, I've talked about this before, the Uncle Joe's Trust Fund, okay? If that was the case, then they call them trust fund. They used to call them trust fund babies. people that got trust funds from Rich Uncle Joe and didn't go do anything with their life because they were sitting back being trust fund babies. They call them trustafarians by right now, folks. I thought that's pretty funny because they sit around, they smoke their dope and shit like that on Uncle Joe's trust fund. But that's what's going on with this. Go in there and, you can't use that as your Uncle Joe's trust fund as a personal bank and go get money from it whenever you want. What you can do is you can ask the trustee, hey, little trustafarian Susie needs to buy a new bong. This bong's got some bling on it. It's from Tiffany's. It's a Tiffany bong. So I need a nice $900 bong. Why? What's the matter with your old $900 bong? Well, I broke it. Okay. Trustafarian Susie needs a new $900 bong. And then you get it. That's what the trust is set up for, folks. It's not set up to cushion your account and buy your gas and all this other stuff like you want to use it for. It's sure not there to build your business with. So that's where this is going, folks. Think about that. I know I got a little thrown off because I wanted to stay with the challenge of jurisdiction. But when you challenge a jurisdiction, they cannot move. When you challenge it based on the fact that it's a commercial action, it's gonna change what they're doing. They're not going to be, if you come in there and they're already, here's the way it works, folks. When they know you're sovereign and they know you're coming in there, they learned me real quick. And at the end of my child support fiascos, Chris didn't get up there till 5 o'clock. Sit around all day to be the last person heard. I am the last person heard. Anytime I go, they've tried to force me in there in the last 15 years. Chris is always the last one because they know. They've identified me. There's a sovereign. Watch out, guys. Don't let anybody else hear what this guy's got to say. They're trying to keep this low key so they can play it out as long as they can. But folks are learning. It's a commercial trust business entity. They are creating bonds against your trust. It's a commercial action, which means it's a civil matter. If it's a commercial crime, it's really a civil matter. There's where you're at with this, folks. Challenge that jurisdiction. Hey, I'm the beneficiary. I'm not even supposed to know there is any charges. I'm not supposed to know what you're doing. How come you're trying to get me to act as a pseudo trustee and make a decision for the trust? Fiduciary judge guy. You went to law school. You should know trust law. You should know that you're not supposed to even think about considering me as a pseudo trustee. That's trust fraud. Hey, bailiff, arrest him. Arrest him. See how quick they change their mind. When you start talking this stuff and they figure out what you're doing, they're going to get you on the first thing smoking. And you say, well, if I refuse to go, they're going to, get me and put me in jail. Then they won't give me a hearing. I won't be able to get in front of the judge and deal with this for a long, long time. Oh, yes, you will. Once they realize that you're refusing to go, they'll figure out real quick that they got to get you in there and do something with you, because this is costing them. This is costing the state of Tennessee, folks, big time. Big time. This going to the Supreme Court, and it's going to cost this state major. They've already made attempts to try and negotiate some kind of settlement with me, a rather lucrative settlement. Chris ain't going for it. But that's what you'll do. You'll challenge that jurisdiction and stick to your guns. Let's see, I want to mention one more thing about this, but I can't seem to slip my mind. Shit, I can't remember now. It happens to us old guys. We're getting up there in age. But challenge that jurisdiction and make them force you in there if it's all possible. Oh yeah. If you do go in there, like say they got a warrant for you or something, or a summons to appear, go in there, and if they say, well, you're here, aren't you? Yeah, I'm here. I'm here because if I don't come here and address or challenge this, that you guys are going to come at me. You're going to come after me with your Nazi Gestapo police kicking in my door, scaring my family, shooting us. That's what you guys are doing these days. I came down here to avoid any unnecessary confrontation, but I am here special appearance. I am making a special appearance. Prove that you have jurisdiction. If you don't, shut the hell up. Have a nice freaking day. But that's pretty much it with that, folks. I'm going to try and work on getting a video up with some questions on it. But until then, brothers and sisters, have a blessed day.